Hello and welcome to Scientifically Speaking. Today's epic. I have described quantum mechanics and I have described the subatomic level of atoms. And on November the 11th, 2021, everything I've ever said is confirmed, and every single detractor and stealer of my work is confirmed to be a lying, stealing fool. So here we are today at phys.org, and we are looking at the first observation of an inhomogeneous electron charge distribution of an atom. Now, inhomogeneous means asymmetrical, which means not the same. And that's what it looks like. We're going to see a little movie in a minute of how it's built up. And then I'm going to go through my work and show you that all I've ever said is vortex to rollover halo wave. And we will go through some of the crazy stuff that I wrote that people laughed at, made fun of, called me horrible names, said I was a crackpot, and all the horrible stuff that they've always said about God's people. So let's check out what it says. Until now, observing subatomic structures was beyond the resolution capabilities of direct imaging methods. So this was never seen before. I said I'd seen it in visions, and I drew it. Czech scientists, however, have presented a method with which they became the first in the world to observe an inhomogeneous electron charge distribution around a halogen atom, thus confirming the existence of a phenomenon that had been theoretically predicted but never directly observed. So I had theoretically predicted it as well, and I drew it. Comparable to the first observation of a black hole, the breakthrough will facilitate understanding of interactions between individual atoms or molecules, as well as of chemical reactions, and it opens a path to refinement of the material and structural properties of various physical, biological and chemical systems. The breakthrough will be published on Friday in Science. And as I've always said in my video of Base Code of the Universe, it applies to physical, biological and chemical systems, which means all the work I ever did, me saying it could be applied to the physical, biological and chemical systems, is now again proven correct. Okay. The Technical University of Ostrava have succeeded in dramatically increasing the resolution capabilities of scanning microscopes, blah blah blah, theoretically preferred. Confirming the existence of the theoretically predicted sigma hole is not unlike observing black holes, which had never been seen until only 2 years ago, despite being predicted in 1915 by the general theory of relativity. Now, Einstein was wrong in pretty much everything he said, so we'll just kind of put that by the side. Viewed in this sense, it's not much of an exaggeration to say that the image of the sigma hole represent a similar milestone at the atomic level. Until now, the existence of the phenomenon, known as sigma hole, had been directly demonstrated by X-ray crystal structures with a halogen bond, which revealed the surprising reality that chemically bonded halogen atoms of one molecule and nitrogen or oxygen atoms of a second molecule, which should repel one another, are in proximity and thus attract one another. This observation was in blatant contradiction with the premise that these atoms carry a homogeneous negative charge and repel each other through electrostatic force. So experiment and theory pictures, and anybody who watches my channel knows exactly what that is because they've seen it in water. This led scientists to examine the subatomic structure of halogen using Kelvin probe force microscopy. Now, Kelvin is a temperature measure, so we're looking at heat, energy. They began to develop a theory describing the mechanism of the atomic resolution of the Kelvin probe, which allowed them to optimize the experimental conditions for imaging sigma holes. The subsequent combination of experimental measurements and advanced quantum chemical methods resulted in a remarkable breakthrough: the first experimental visualization of an inhomogeneous electron density charge distribution, i.e. a sigma hole. The definitive confirmation of the concept of halogen bonds. So, anybody who's just seen that picture knows that I've already drawn a sigma hole and I used it in everything. But we'll get to that. We improved the sensitivity, blah, blah, blah. When I saw the sigma hole for the first time, certainly skeptical, it implied that we'd overcome the resolution limit of the microscopes down to the subatomic level. Again, okay, according to scientists, the ability to image an inhomogeneous electron density charge on individual atoms will, among other things, lead to a better understanding of the reactivity of individual molecules and the reason for the arrangement of various molecule structures. So they're just on about imaging it. All right, so this is how they imaged it. So this is, let's say, bromide atom. Does it say there? No, anyway, this is going to image it. So let's watch. I'll probably get a copyright strike for this, so no payment for one of the best videos in the world. That is the sigma hole, the distribution. So above that is the electron energy charge. They scan it, and it gives you a frequency shift. Red and blue mean towards or away. Then it scans it. As we see, there's a hole. What are you looking at? I see a vortex to a rollover halo wave, a sigma hole. The characteristic shape of the sigma hole is formed by a positively charged crown. Remember my video? The king wears flowers in his hair with crowns, surrounded by a belt of negative electron density. This homogeneous charge distribution leads to the formation of a halogen bond, which plays a key role in, among other things, supramolecular chemistry, including molecular crystal engineering, and in biological systems. The precise knowledge of the electron charge distribution on atoms is necessary for an understanding of the interactions between individual atoms and molecules, including chemical reactions. Thus, the new imaging method opens the door to refinement of the material and structural properties of many physical, biological and chemical systems affecting everyday life. And this is what I said years ago. I said in the base code of the universe, because that's what it is, that everything, absolutely everything, is an electrochemical reaction. Because it's an electric that applies to chemicals that creates the reaction. It's an electrochemical reaction, and that is every process in the universe, vortex to rollover halo wave. Just so everybody knows, I've shown this travel in gases, solids, liquids, every form of matter. I have shown this travel in and used vortex to rollover halo wave for every single explanation. Now my work is in no particular order. I just grabbed about 20 pictures so I could go through them. So here we see Birkeland currents on a magnet, HD close-up. That was my video. That was in 2017. What I need you to look at is the top part of the page there. And what do we see? We see trumpets and a top version of the halo wave right there. And what do we see? We see basically it's a vortex to a rollover halo wave, and that's why I then drew the trumpets. All the rest on there is all energy travel and all the different forms of energy travel that energy can make. But, as I've said in many videos, when energy meets an energy or matter barrier, it must perform a rollover halo wave. This, of course, is my base code of the universe that I did in December 2020. So over a year ago, I said this is how the whole universe is constructed. And as you can see on there, there's a side view and a top view, and we have God's sign. And both of them are vortex to rollover halo wave, which is exactly what we're looking at here. Okay, so I probably should have started with this one, but I made a couple of videos and I said, God showed me the electron. I sat there, and because I was visualizing everything like 7 years ago, in the visions, everything I thought of just went blam, burst out of my head. So I said, Lord, can you show me the electron? And everything was darkness, and I saw an electrical strike with a cup on top, like a hand holding something, but there was no electron there. And I went, that's weird, Lord. And I didn't trust what had been shown, and I've had that for years. But I finally released it on God Showed Me the Electron, April 26th of this year, 6 months before this report of the electron density charge came out. And as we can see, it's inhomogeneous, which means it's not symmetrical, and it's got that rollover halo wave on top. It's got the cup to the vortex. So, yeah, I was almost embarrassed about putting it up because I thought, anybody who says what's an electron look like, it's a round ball of some form. Well, it's not. And I didn't think it was. It's a rollover halo wave, which, as I've said in previous videos, can become a halo sphere. And I've done a video on that about atom cloaking, where the rollover halo wave goes up and then it comes down. The energy ejection is stopped, so the bottom point of the vortex lifts off, goes into the halo wave, and if the halo wave spins down and around, you get a halo sphere. So, yeah, I asked God to show me the electron. He showed me what was holding up the electron. This was just part of one of the books that I've been putting all my work in. And again, as we see, rollover halo wave, in the center of the picture there, you see how it turns into a halo sphere, where the rollover halo wave drops below the actual input emission and then joins to form a halo wave. And again, we can see the halo wave from the top, which is exactly the same as that electron distribution charge. Now, I've shown all these pictures in water. Here's where I showed it on magnets and the Eye of Horus using the base code of the universe. Obviously, that's a really complicated picture that I'd be surprised if many people could understand without reading the rest of the book there. But again, it's all to do with vortex to rollover halo wave, as all things are. Now, this form of travel has been known for a while because it's called the Rayleigh-Taylor instability. But they don't know how it works and they don't know how it rotates, but this has been seen, and it's been seen in a lot of things. That's why it's called the Rayleigh-Taylor instability. But nobody's been able to describe it or said it was a main mechanism of electrochemical distributions. So it's not like it's new, but it then again confirms everything I've said from God as being true, because it's not like everything I've said is beyond the realms of science. It has already been shown in science, but I'm the only one who has explained all the rotations. More magnetic pictures showing vortex to rollover halo wave. Again, plant growth, vortex to rollover halo wave. This, of course, is the video The True King Wears Flowers in His Hair. Yeah. An energy ejection has a crown on top, and that's why the king wears a crown. This is from Base Code of the Universe, a scientific paper studying magnetic vortex rings. And as we see, vortex to rollover halo wave. Every single medium of matter or gases does this. This, of course, was the 3D rendering of about 300 pictures of a rotating magnet, which again shows two lumps. This is the vortex, the rollover halo wave that creates these, and they are all interlinked. Now, many more of my videos can be found on my page. Every single one of them talks about vortex to rollover halo wave. And then it goes to either halo sphere, or if there's a continuous flow, it will become a laminar flow of vortex wave, vortex wave, vortex wave. That's how you get a standing structure of, say, a plant. That is a laminar flow of energy that constructs the whole plant. And finally, here we are at the words of God from Habakkuk 3:4. God is as the light, which means he's electricity and magnetism. And from his hand, horns protrude, vortex to rollover halo wave. And this is the hiding of his power. Energy is invisible until it meets matter. I'd like to thank God through these trying times that I've had for showing me, even when my spirit is waning, he comes along and he slaps stuff in my hand. Science has finally caught up with me. They still don't know how this vortex to rollover halo wave will interact with another halo wave, because they think it's some kind of torus. It is not. It is constructed from thousands of T-shaped halo waves. These all join together. That's why when you pour water onto a plate, it will form an Ouroboros ring. But you will be able to see every strand, as I've shown in videos of my own, of all these leaders which rotate left and right and create a magnetic field shaped the flower of life with an Ouroboros sphere. And that's what's going on with the electric charge distribution. Now, because that's what I'm like, I'm going to show that Theoria Apophasis has just changed his theory to mine and this again. I believe he read it the other day. And why do I believe that? Well, let's have a listen to his words and see what he did believe and now how he's changing his story. Now, on Theoria Apophasis' Vortex of Life and Nature's Secrets, he talks about how he believes that a torus is actually a vortex. We're going to hear about that in a second. But first, here's his words. His book update, The Hyperboloid Torus, Uncovering the Missing Secrets of Magnetism. Basically, as we can see in that picture, his torus and his hyperboloid, a hourglass figure, he has always maintained that they are separate. Do you reckon he's changed that view now that he watched the electron distribution charge?
Up with a hyperboloid. So the sphere defining space and divergence, what would define counter space and convergence? And here we have the hyperboloid. So how do we tie the two together and take a genuine look at what defines counter space and space, i.e. dielectricity and magnetism? Well, we have one single formation. We have the toroid here, and we have the hyperboloid right here, both defining two different geometry. Now this is non-Euclidean geometry.
So you all heard that, right? He said they're all two separate entities, and he even drew it as two separate entities. We've all seen mine, vortex to roll over halo wave, and then they all intertwine like petals on a leaf. That picture, though, that you just saw, was not what I draw, and it is not a distribution charge that came out of a electron. Looks nothing like it. Now, Theoria likes to use a lot of word salad, but here he is talking about more vortices and toroids. So let's hear him now take his torus, which is not linked to his hyperboloid, and let's hear him turn it into a vortex.
We were actually able to see light three-dimensionally, and of course everybody looks at it two-dimensionally. It's like, well, here we have, transverse electrical magnetic, and here we have the presumed photon. Of course, there's no such thing as a photon. That's a conceptual abstraction of the rarefaction of the coaxial circuit that is light. But if we're able to see it at a set frequency or wavelength, light, of course, is toroidal. And the rarefaction, of course...
Now, I've shown the travel of light, and it goes vortex to Ouroboros, ring, and back to vortex. And that's how magnetism works. That's why you have rings around electric lines. That magnetic field and then the electric. Yeah, that's an Ouroboros torus field.
Since the smaller the space, the higher the capacitance, which is completely contrary to human existence. A larger box holds more stuff. Something bigger is always more powerful. And everybody loves, these are two huge things that people love to talk about that they have no idea what they are. They love to talk about the golden ratio. So what's a spiral? And the other thing they like to talk about is vortexes. There's so many new agers out there. They love to describe and point to beautiful images of vortexes. It's like, well, what is a vortex? Well, I don't really know. I tried to...
See, I've already explained what the vortex is in detail on many videos.
Because to make things simple is to truly comprehend them. And you can describe things all day long and show them to people, and that impresses them because they're super...
This is what I mean by word salad. See, my videos are like 5 minutes long because I tell you exactly what I mean to. Theory will spend 20 minutes talking you in and out of rubbish.
Official. But if you can actually explain it, and explain it in simple, then you truly understand it, because descriptions are not explanations.
He's now going to give you a description.
And of course, the nature of existence and that of natura naturans, or nature, is that of a vortex. But we're only seeing one side of the vortex. It's kind of looking top down on a donut.
So yeah, he's been looking at the electron charge.
Yeah, we see that. It's like, well, there's a vortex. And of course, it looks like a depression. If you would imagine a toroidal shape with a smaller hole at it, it actually centripetally spires inwards. But
why does it? Because it's a donut. You just said it was a donut. See how he's trying to... It spirals inwards. Here comes the vortex, everybody, that he never had before.
What towards what? Not towards the other side. The energy vortexes spiral towards the plane of inertia, or to counter space. And
Which is where? Which is where, Ken?
of course, counter space is really a rather BS term.
A bit like your work.
I shouldn't say counter space, but what else are we going to replace it with? Subspace, 0.8
Space, mate. There's only matter and space.
energy. The ether, of course, is more appropriate. But when you say the ether...
I'm sorry, everybody. The word salad is incredible. Trying to find the actual facts.
You don't think of it as a term, as a destination, because a vortex is a torus. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, there we go.
The ether, you don't think of it as a term.
So here we go. He's now going to turn his torus, which he's always described as a donut, into a vortex.
As a destination, because the path up is exactly the same as the path down in the nature of existence. And
Whatever that means.
but anyway, a vortex is a torus. Like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, because you've already said that a torus and a hyperboloid are two separate entities on a magnet. I'd like you to notice that people like Theoria Apophasis and Angry Catfish Briggs always say the facts after the time they were already released. It's always after the fact, whereas I did all this 7 years ago.
If you actually think about a toroidal shape in simple, a toroidal shape, of course, is just a conjugate vortex, a
Whatever that means.
double vortex. Think about
Now it's a double helix vortex too.
that for a second. We take the plane of inertia along the toroid, the torus shape. Either side of course, is a vortex, and a torus is just a conjugate vortex. But wait a minute.
So we're all done here. As you've just heard, he's gone from a torus and a hyperboloid to now the torus is a vortex, which of course is all I've ever said. And everybody has disputed me and everybody's thrown out their own theories. But God has shown that science has finally caught up with me and him. God is the most awesome of gods. He's the only God. And he gives out information so that we might all come to a knowledge and understanding of the true God. Men like this, another blustering blowhard who talks and talks and talks but doesn't actually say anything, but will go back again and have a listen to him change his theory from hyperboloid and torus to torus is a vortex, which makes it a rollover halo wave. There are many things I've had to correct Theoria on. He now has two leaders in an S shape that construct his torus, but now it's a vortex.
The force geometry of magnetism. If you actually think about a toroidal shape in simple, a toroidal shape, of course, is just a conjugate vortex.
And that's all we need to hear, because we've all seen your pictures and your books, your free books, and they're free because obviously they're all wrong, as you are now trying to skid away from. Your torus and hyperboloid are trashed forever because the electron charge distribution is a trumpet, a vortex to rollover halo wave. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Obviously, God is an epic God and gives knowledge away freely, as I have. Is there any more to do? We've got down to the subatomic level and it's everything I always said it was. I'd like to thank God for being awesome and having mercy upon me, a massive sinner, and allowing me to say all these things. Thanks very much. My name is Lee. I follow the Christ, and I've shown you everything he's shown me. And again, science has finally caught up. Bye-bye.